Hi, thanks for checking our channel here. This is going to be kind of a finish up video. I'm right in the middle of this thing. I figure, well, I'm going to show you what we do here on some of this stuff. This is a repair on a, these are a set of load cells out of a squeeze chute type load bar made by Gallagher. This is an older set. The load cells are both shot in the thing. Cable's in good shape. Physically, we probably got to put a new connector on the end of it. It's been gnawed on by something like a cow or a dog or something. But if you have a load bar by Gallagher of any kind, if you need any help troubleshooting, give us a call. We'll do that over the phone. You shoot me an email. There's an email address at the Cattle Scale Repair website, but you can also email us here at fencerfixer816@gmail. I think it's cattlescalerepair@gmail. I think is what the email address is. But here's how you troubleshoot when you have a weird thing going on with your scale system. This will work on most brands of this livestock stuff or scales in general, on most things. But the two symptoms that maybe 3 or 4 symptoms that we see or over the phone or in person when we're working with things is the scale will either, the display monitor, the computer part of the thing that displays the weight and everything, you'll get different symptoms of things that will happen. You'll either see the numbers bounce around all over the place. They'll go plus a bunch of numbers, negative a bunch of numbers, or something that it just won't settle down. That's one symptom you'll see. Other times you'll see an error code pop up on the screen. Different brands have different error codes, sort of things. You also see where it won't weigh right. If you weigh, say, 250 pounds and you step on there, it weighs you at 160, like, oh, should I weigh more than that? So what you do in any of those situations, you turn the scale off, unhook the low bars. Usually this is about talking about low bars where there's a back bar and a front bar on like either an alleyway, platform setup leading up to your chute, or like this setup was these cells and for the bar for these belong to go underneath the squeeze chute itself. It's talking about that type of setup. Either one of those two setups. What you do is you turn the scale off, you unhook one low bar, leave the other one hooked up, and then follow that cable down to figure out if it's the front bar or the back bar that's connected. Once you figure that out, turn it back on. Make sure it goes to its main screen. If it shows like 0 pounds on there, they're okay, well, so far so good. And then go up there and step on that one end, that at the front or the back of the chute or the platform, wherever that bar, whichever one's hooked up. And if you step on there and it weighs you 250 or 243 or 249 or 252, something close, then that bar is okay, most likely okay. If you step on there, or if you turn it on with just that one bar hooked up, and it either won't show anything on the screen besides dashes, or it shows the error code again, or the numbers are bouncing around, or you step on that bar and it weighs light, then that bar's got a problem. Any of those things. And then you turn it off, unhook that bar, that cable, hook the other one back up, turn it back on, and repeat the same process. If one bar acts right and weighs pretty close and the other one's causing all kinds of problems and issues or whatever, that's a bad bar. So then you can take that bar out, and depending on the brand, you can either take it all apart. You can send us the load cells and the cable that tie into this little junction box here like this, and save a bunch of money on freight, because you can put these in like a medium or large flat rate box at the post office for like $15-30, whatever the flat rate boxes go for these days. So a lot cheaper than shipping one of the bars, because the bars can be pretty heavy. 20 pounds for the smaller bars and 50 plus pounds for the bigger bars. So, and then sometimes you got to take them to put them on a pallet and strap them down and ship them that way, that sort of thing. And but we do give free quotes. But these two load cells are shot. They're in pretty rough shape. Not terrible, but they're both bad. They're just old, just wore out. This is a 2000, well, I think 2007. There's usually a number on here, but I can't read it. 2006. So these things have got some age to them. They're pushing almost 20 years age, and they're just, you know, it's either deteriorating, paint's chipping off, they're starting to corrode, but they don't weigh right at all. So these load cells, they can't fix the cells, you gotta just replace them. So those cells are going to go in the trash. But here's the little junction box that they go into. But we're going to, you can't dig them out of there, so you got to cut it off. And I always cut it back to here because there's always like a spot here where it kind of gets pinched and curves around when it's inside the bar. So always cut it past that pinch. You only lose a couple inches of it anyways. And then you just, all this stuff just goes in the trash. And so, and if you need parts to do this, you can do it. The repair that we're going to do is what the factory does, or the official Gallagher Repair Center does. If you want to do it yourself, the only other way to do it besides sending it here and letting us wire it all up and stuff is to buy a kit, which comes with 2 cells, a new cable, pre-epoxied all together. All you have to do is unbolt yours, bolt new ones in, and you're done. But that's kind of expensive. Because, like, this guy doesn't need a cable. His cable's fine. He needs a new connector on the cable. But the cable itself is in good shape. So, and not every time that this one's pretty bad, it needs both cells. Sometimes you don't need both cells. And sometimes it's not even the load cells that are bad. Sometimes it's a connector, a cable issue, something like that. But this one's got 2 bad load cells in it, unfortunately. So I cut that back just a little too much. So we need about that much sticking out. Somewhere in that range. Now we're going to strip this back just a little ways. It'll be like ½ an inch or so. And then I need to go get 2 new load cells. So give me just a minute here to go get those. And these are the current cells that Gallagher's got, these orange ones. They've had these orange ones out, and this is the most recent version of them. These are 2020, late 22, early 23 model cells. But they've been basically the same for about 5, 6, 7, about 6, 7 years. But they've been orange cells since about 2008, 9. But they made a few tweaks and changes with the manufacturing part of things the last few years, over the years. But so what we're going to do now is I need these. Someone's already used this cell. We just got these cells in, but they must have installed one and then not needing it or something. So that's why that one looks the way it does. But that's a little long. Next thing we're going to do, get this peeled up, tape out of the way, and I got these metal springs came off the old load cells, and they put that on there to try to keep the rodents from getting in there and chewing the wires up inside the bar. We're going to thread that up. We're going to pull this spring down there. We're going to get a couple of zip ties, and we're going to now we're going to put a zip tie there. That's going to keep that spring from falling off and keep that thing in place. And we'll take the next load cell. We'll do the same thing, or the other one. We'll thread that on. And then we'll put the other zip tie on here. Oops. Alright, now what do we do? Well, this is what we do. We take a pair of wire strippers, and I've done this enough times I know this is going to work. We pinch it back about here, and that pulls that outer layer off without chewing into these wires here, because you don't want to cut into these, because then you have to cut this off and start over again. There's plenty of wire here to work with, so we usually can make a couple mistakes before we get too much of a pain in the neck and get in a bind. So now, you can either use wire strippers, but these wires are pretty small. And yeah, these wire strippers don't get those, so I just doing it for years. So I just take my fingernail and I just pinch and strip the wire off with a fingernail. Just pinch and pull like that. So we're going to strip all these off. So I'll do that and I'll come back on here in just a minute. All right, and then we will take these wires to the 2 load cells and we're going to twist them together. So black to black, red to red, green to green, and so on. And I do make sure that these things don't get crisscrossed on one another. It just makes it cleaner and easier to work with when you don't have wires like a red that goes over here to this one. You don't want to go behind another wire, try to go in front of it or something, just so that way they don't get, crisscrossed up. Like that red one is kind of tucked between the white and the black, so we'll just bring it through and around like that. And then we'll bring this red wire up over here. I get the colors, the insulation right butted up against each other, right even, and I pinch it like that, and I just take them and I twist them together like that. And now we'll do the green one next. The green one's on the outside, so that's good. So we'll get the wires. Ow. I smashed my thumb earlier. I had this bruise right there on my thumb. It's bugging me. So now we'll do that, and then we'll do the, oh, they're all done. Alright, so let's make sure that they're all cleaned up and tightened up and everything, twisted together real good. Now we'll take the cable, the yellow cable, and we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to I'm going to strip off just a little bit more, because this wire is a little bit bigger gauge, and it won't wrap around as much when it's just the same length as those other ones are. So I cut for just a little bit more, just a little bit more leeway and wraps. We go to twist it together. So now we'll do green to green. That's just happens to be the first one. So like I did the other one, we kind of keep it where the colors are right up against each other like that. Pinch them like that with one finger to hold them, and we'll take this finger, we'll twist them together, make it solid. So now it looks like that. And then we'll go to the black one next. So this one's on the back side, so we'll bring it around like this to the front. And then we'll, do the red one. See, now they're getting back here, so I'm going to need to put it down underneath like that. Put the red one to the outside, so that way it doesn't get crisscrossed with something else. And then we'll tighten that up. And we'll bring the white wire out from behind everything. Bring it over to this one and do the same thing. So electrically, we're done. But we still got to get the epoxy box and do the epoxy and all that fun stuff. So let me get my jig out that we use to do the epoxy and the thing that holds everything together. Let me go grab all that. Alright, there's our jig that we made up. There's our little connectors. People used to use these, or maybe they still do, in landline telephone stuff back in the day. Maybe they still use them today in other things. But they've got like a gel inside of them, like a water anti-corrosive gel inside there. But most people back in the day used to use them on inside of landline telephone boxes to keep the wires secure together, stuff like that. But these usually are I usually pinch them. They're kind of oval. It's like on top and bottom of the long side of the oval, and squeeze on it just to kind of make it more round, and it makes it easier for installing these wires into there. They'll probably go on without doing that, but this just makes it easier for it to slide right in. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the wires, we'll put all the way in as far as we can to where nothing is exposed and showing. And then we'll take a pair of pliers here, And we're just going to bite down. It's like metal inside these. As you squeeze it, it kind of bites into the wire and it keeps its shape. So we'll do that to all 4 of them. Come on. This one's got like a little thing, so let's cut that off. Still plenty there. Shove it down. I'll go back to the end. Smash it down. We'll go up just one more, just a little bit higher. And then we'll do the last one here. Okay, so now, next step. You know, one of those zip ties. And now we need to keep this wire, those cells crisscrossed. So now we will get these wires to where, the cables, to where they're all even. Laying flat, and we'll get them stay right there. And then we'll put a zip tie around them. And this helps us hold things together when we go to do the epoxy part of things in that little junction box. Epoxy box, what do they call it? Okay, now it's holding it like that for us. So now we'll snip off that. I need a pair of cutters. This is about wore out. Okay, epoxy box. Where is it? Now we used to use a 2-part epoxy. It'll take 1 full tube of this stuff. It doesn't have to be JB Well. It could be Loctite or whatever. But that's what was at stores. What we bought. Now we turn it like this. And actually, I used this. Came off of an old case of a fence charger, but I wired up this little 3rd-hand helper arm thing to help hold this epoxy box. It's got a little jig we made up. So now we need this epoxy box. We got to put a little hole in the center of it. You have to run a bolt through it. And it's to sit over here. Put a nut in the back side. And then we'll put the wires in like that. And this is going to hold our wires so they stay where we want them to stay at while the epoxy dries, hardens up. So let me find my bolt that I want to use and the nut and everything for it, and we'll be right back. Alright, so here's I usually put a washer on it as we're putting in there because it kind of cushions. That's pretty thin little plastic. But it just does one thing. Once the epoxy gets in there and everything, it's fine. Okay, and you get a drill. This is where we got to be kind of careful because you don't want to drill too hard to that thing and crack and break that stupid little plastic thing. Which I've done a time or two. I'm just going to get a bit that's about that size should work. I don't know if this will be long enough. I might need to. That'll work. Alright, we're just going to turn this down because I don't want it to grab and twist on me. Go dead center. Get started. Now set it flat table. And I'm not pushing too hard because if you push too hard, I've done this and I've cracked and broke that stupid thing. And then you got to get a new one. And just letting the weight, just put a little pressure behind it. You want to be close to center. That's where we want to be, at close to center as we can. There's usually a piece down inside there that gets stuck. Try to peel that out of there. And it's usually, sometimes you can just get right out of there. Sometimes it's part of the plastic when it didn't break off. Come on, get out of there. There. All right. Now where's that nut at? And the bolt. Okay, there's the bolt. So we'll put the bolt through there first. There. Now its piece is gone. The bolt head wasn't sitting flush. It was kind of lopsided. Now it's nice and straight. So I'll put that right here. Make sure it's where we want it at, because I got a little wiggle room in there for this thing to stay. A little slot there, so we're going to put it down at the bottom. And we'll take this nut. And I usually do it as tight as I can, because I've seen other people do the same repair and they didn't tighten this thing down far enough. And it started to epoxy up real good. And you think the epoxy would hold that bolt still, but then they go put the bolt and everything back into the low bar. They're tightening it up. As they're tightening this up, the bolt starts spinning inside the epoxy, and then like, oh shit, now what do we do? So I guess learned by mistakes over the years of what to do, how to do it. So let's get this pair of pliers out. We're gonna put it right about there. We'll go in here and grab the head of the bolt, hold it tight. And then we'll take this and we're going to tighten it up. And we'll put a washer behind that, but I think we're doing okay without it. Okay, so now what I do is I usually sit on the floor and I usually just walk away because I need to use my bench, but just for demonstration purposes only. I'm not going to mix the epoxy, but I'll show you what we will do, because I need my workbench to work from. So this takes a while for the epoxy to set up and cure fully. But usually what I do is set this on the floor. Since you can't set this on the table because this will hit the table first, the thing will wobble around. I usually set it between the two load cells and let it kind of rest on there like that. So that way it's flat and flush. We're using the edge of this case to hold these load cells in place. Then we'll take the cables and we'll bend it kind of like that, like an L shape. Slide it down the side there. We'll take this alligator clip, slide it down like that. Once we get that where we want it, slide this down, let the teeth kind of bite on it, and then that holds it for us. So now now we're ready to do the epoxy. We'll just lift this back up like that. Pour the epoxy, pull a full tube of that stuff, and this is a 25 milliliter worth of epoxy. Short the whole tube of it in there. It's a two-part, and we go in and we mix the hell out of it to get that nice and stirred up real good. It's very bottom, middle, and top. We just mix it up real good. And we usually go extra time in there just to make sure. And then we just take this. At the self-leveling type of epoxy, so as we put it in, it's going to kind of work its way around all the little holes and stuff down underneath things. Put it down there flat, make sure nothing bubbles over and leaks out the top as we're pushing it in there, which it usually doesn't if you do it slow. And then walk away for a few hours, and usually once epoxy hardens up and it's solid rock, then you can just take the clamp off, undo this, pull the whole bolt out, and then you're done. So that's what we're going to do, but I'm not going to do it on this part of the video because I need to use my bench. So that's what I'm going to tell you. That's what we're going to do, and then this one will be done. We got to put a new connector on the end of that. That's not a big deal. It'll take a 15-minute job to do that, maybe. But here's the information again. If you got a set of low bars, Gallagher scales that are acting up, you need help troubleshooting. Hopefully those little tips helped you figure out how to troubleshoot. But then you know that which bar is bad, then you can send us the load cells if you want, or send the full bar. You can do that. Parts aren't super expensive. The load cells are the most expensive part to these things. I don't remember what they cost. I got to look it up. But in our system that we got, but definitely cheaper than buying a new set. New set's $2,000 for a new set of bars, You know, or more, maybe higher than that. I don't know. They're 2,000 give or take something for a new set of bars, so they're not cheap. Well, there's information. If you got any other questions, give us a holler. Be happy to help you guys out. Until next time, see you later on.